All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Sold As Is. I'm your host, Matt, co host, Tom here. And we wanted to come back because there's a lot of big news in the real estate market, right? With interest rates
Yeah.
coming down and a lot of buzz going around. And I know you mentioned that you were on the verge of getting canceled and things like that. So we figured what better way than to come out with another episode, talk about what's going on in real estate, talk about the rates and think consumers should know about. And yeah, so that's what we're going to do.
All right. Yeah. Let's jump right in. I mean, this week we had the Feds announce a half a point drop in Fed rate, and it seemed like every real estate agent in the whole world got on their social media and announced it. And by the end of the night, I couldn't stand it anymore. And I had to post on my story that, yes, the world knows the Feds lowered the rates a half a point.
Right.
And as we've been coaching with the Tom Ferry organization, our coach Patrick has always told us not to just post information, but to post how does that affect the consumer.
Mm.
And since he's made that us aware of that, for me, it's like when I see these posts, I look to say, well, what is the consumer supposed to do with that? And it's like
Right.
over and over, everybody posting, but they don't really relate it to how it affects a buyer or a seller in this market.
Yeah.
And by the end of the night, I posted it, and the only hearts I got were home warranty reps and title reps and stuff like that. So it was kind of
Yeah.
funny.
Well,
I think
what's
some of the real estate agents might have been a little upset at me about that. So that kind of, yeah, like you said, triggered this new
yeah.
podcast to talk about how does this Fed rate really affect the consumer.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Right?
well, let's talk about it. I mean, let's talk a little bit about I guess maybe let's talk a little bit about the market before we dip into that real quick.
Sure. What do you want to know?
I mean, like, what's kind of keeping our market like at the prices that they're at right now?
It's great that you brought that up because I have a lot of conversations, especially with clients and stuff. We're on the phones all the time, reaching out to people, and a lot of times they want to say, "Oh, I'm waiting for interest rates to come down,"
Right.
or "I'm waiting for prices to come down." And last year, even the beginning of this year, when we saw interest rates so high, us as real estate agents thought that was going to drive our market down,
Right.
and it didn't. And the first quarter of this year, there was so much optimism in our market about the potential Fed rate cuts that a lot of buyers got out and did a great thing, and they bought
Right.
even at these high interest rates. But we saw high interest rates didn't bring our market down. We see unemployment didn't bring our market down. And as I've been diving into my little foxhole of understanding data, I realized that it really boils down to supply and demand, Matt.
Mm.
you know,
Right.
the more apples there are in a season, the cheaper those apples are. And the less apples there are in a season, the more expensive those apples are. So we are truly in a market, at least here in Southern California, in LA, the San Fernando Valley, we are in an inventory of less homes on the market. So I think all these economic things can happen to us, and we still have more buyers than we have properties for sale, and that's why you're seeing our property values stay the way they are.
Right. I think you hit it right, the nail right on the head. There's definitely, I mean, in a healthy market, we should have anywhere between 6 months worth of supply,
I would
6 months
say
plus.
8 to 12 months. So in our market, with 1,000 homes coming off every month, we should have about 12,000 homes on the market,
Mm.
and we probably only have about maybe 3,000
Right.
right now. So we are still running off a shortage of supply. And in 2021 and 2020, we were running off of maybe 1,100.
Wow.
So that's why you saw the market really take off here for
Right.
us as well.
Short inventory coupled with they were 3% interest rates,
Yeah.
SBA loans. I know we went over a lot of that stuff in previous episodes, but just to recap, that just shot our market up 25%. People were paying 100K over asking price.
That, and everybody got their COVID money.
Yeah.
They got that COVID relief money, and everybody put it into real estate, which is a great thing. Best place to put it into. But yeah, that's why you see the values up where they're at, and
What
you
would
see
be,
inventory.
because I make calls and we're prospecting daily, and we hear the same things, waiting for interest rates to go down, waiting for prices to go down. But what type of indicators would you say that would start to signal if we started seeing these things happen? what would start to trigger a downward trend in prices?
I mean, locally, I think we're going to need to see, uh, you know, again, interest rates went up, didn't trigger it. Unemployment kind of up a little bit here, didn't really trigger it. We're really going to have to see more inventory hit our market.
Right.
We're going to have to see about 7,000 homes hit our market within a 30-day period to really shift it into a buyer's market, to give buyers more opportunities, to chances to get a better price on a home. You know, because interest rates didn't do it, economy didn't do it. I mean, inflation is through the roof.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's $20 to go and get
Anything.
a burger and fries right now. Don't even try to go to In-N-Out right now, and try to walk out for less than $20 right now. So inflation's through the roof, but our housing market's still super strong. So for me, I would say we need to see some type of economic thing happen to where people had a mass exodus of getting out of the San Fernando Valley or LA or the California, and we'd see about 7,000 homes hit our market all in a maybe 60-90 day period, and I would definitely be able to tell you.
And if you're thinking foreclosures or short sales are going to happen, because what I know you and I have talked a little bit extensively, like there's more Americans or more homeowners right now that are sitting on a lot of equity.
Yeah, and more than ever, there are more people in the United States with homes that are free and clear.
Right.
So even if you lost your job, even if something happened and you were going to go rent or move out of state, you would put your house on the market at fair market value, and you're going to take the money and run. So there are some outlier properties that do have some foreclosures out there, but not a lot. Not a lot like we did in 2005, 6, 7, and all time 8 through 11. But I don't see REO properties coming back as they were either, because there's a lot of equity out there,
Right.
and no one's going to walk away from equity, Matt.
That's what I'm thinking. Like sometimes you hear the people that think they know a lot, and they keep watching the TikTok videos, and
Yeah.
I'm looking for deals and short sales and distressed properties, and I'm just like, I guess us too. Like if you find it, let me know.
Yeah,
because
I mean, if we find it, we're keeping it for sure. So don't think it's ever going to hit the consumer. If there's an agent who's got a good deal and it's that good of a deal, we're probably holding on to it.
Right.
Disclaimer.
Right. I mean, just being honest.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's like, when we're talking to clients and customers and they're talking about they're waiting for rates to drop or they're waiting, for these things to happen, a lot of times I'm asking them, what are you looking for? Like, what is a dollar number that makes sense? Because, and that I think brings us into the Fed rate cut today, because everybody has been talking about this Fed rate cut, but what did it really do to the consumer?
Yeah. Let's talk about
So,
it.
I put a chart and a graph together, and I started studying. I realized, right now we know that for every $100,000 you borrow at around 6%, your payment's about $600 a month. $600 a month, and a quarter rate cut in interest rates on that same 100,000 would be about $583.
Right.
So the consumer's saving about $16 a month for every $100,000 they borrow, with the Fed rates coming down, and they haven't even really come down, because the bond market controls our interest rates more than the Fed rate.
Right.
Who is directly benefiting from the Fed rate cut are automobile loans, credit cards, home equity lines of credit. But mortgages, in fact, I got a call from one of my clients said, "Hey, my rate went up 1/8%, and the Fed lowered their rate." So, it's kind of this misconception that that's directly gonna see this half a point drop, and it didn't happen. It may happen because as I mean, the market reacted really well to that Fed rate cut, and you saw the stock markets come up and a lot of value there. So optimism with that, and I think the markets are going to want more Fed rate cuts, and we'll see where does that go with inflation. Does that bring our In-N-Out burger to $25? I don't know.
So just to clarify, the Fed rate dropping half a point doesn't necessarily mean that interest rates for mortgage loans are going to drop a half a point.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head right there.
Just to play a little devil's advocate, let's just say we do come across a buyer and they are able to secure a half point lower interest rate. What would that look like?
Well, I mean, if you look at it in terms of at $100,000, at 16 bucks for every quarter point, that would be a $32 a month for every 100 grand they borrowed. And in the chart that I laid out, at 600,000, a quarter point rate cut would equivalent to about 96 bucks a month.
Okay. At a $600,000.
At a $600,000 loan amount, which
Okay.
is kind of right in the middle of the road for us here in LA. That equates to about a $96 a month reduction in payment.
Right. Okay.
And if you were comfortable with that payment and willing to pay that payment, well, that brought you about $16,000 worth of more buying power.
Okay.
So if you were going to borrow and you were comfortable with that payment, you could now borrow $616,000 with the same payment that you're getting for $600. So
Right.
is it this whopping, oh my gosh, get on Instagram and Facebook and post out this information? I don't know.
Right.
Obviously, as you get up into the millions, it becomes more of a savings. But even a full point reduction, I think, is 64 bucks.
Wow.
And for a $600,000 loan, that's about $384 a month.
Okay.
Not bad. Or a $64,000 bump in price.
Okay.
So, if you're a consumer and you're out there and you're like, oh, I'm waiting for rates to drop, the question is like, how much? Like, what's a number that's good for you? Because even at a full percent drop, you're talking about 384 bucks, which I'm not lying, is not a lot, but what has to happen
Right.
for that to go? And then what do you think other buyers are going to do when that happens? You're going to create more of a buying frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
We already have a shortage amount of inventory. If I have 2,000 buyers trying to buy in a month and not 1,000, I'll have no inventory.
Right.
And you'll see the market just continue to go higher and higher.
Interesting. It's interesting to see the actual numbers and like what people are actually, because since we've come over to Rise, we've put a bigger effort on outbound phone calls, cold calling. I talk to buyers all the time. I hear the same few, we call them what do we call them? Objections.
Yeah.
And it's always about prices. It's always about interest rates. But I don't really think people really even understand like what it actually means. Like when you quantify it down to like, you're only saving, what are we talking about? A half a point? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's, what did we say? $16 for every quarter point?
Yeah.
You're saving $32 or whatever?
Well, I mean, 96 bucks on a $600,000 loan.
96 bucks.
$100 is keeping you from owning real estate, building wealth, getting the tax shelter that you need,
Right.
building equity, and it's for $100. $100 you're going to stay out there and you're going to continue to rent.
At 100% interest.
At 100% interest, rents are going to go higher.
Yeah.
If you're paying $3,200 a month for a place here in LA, which is going to be probably on the cheap side, that's $32,000 minimum a
Plus.
year. $36,000 a year that you're just flushing down the toilet every year. Times that in 10 years, that's $360,000 that you could have invested into real estate, but for $100, you're sitting on the sideline. And I think
That
that's
kind of hurts.
yeah. I mean, it hurts as an agent, really here to really, truly want to help people build wealth, and they're sitting on the fence rationalizing $100.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, if you're a consumer and you're on the fence right now, really, let's dive in. Let's give us a call. Let's really find out what it is that's holding you back, because I think there's something deeply rooted, or when you understand the benefits of owning real estate or the little amount that you're really saving by the rates going down, you'll see that going back to the two questions that we always ask
Right.
is really going to be the deciding factor.
Right. Number one, we always ask, can you afford the payment at this
Right
current
now,
rate?
correct.
Number two is, if you were to lose your job, are you able to continue making the payments until
Yep.
you secured another job?
Absolutely.
If the answer is yes, then you should be buying real estate.
Absolutely. And the most part of, I think about it, Matt, too, is just looking at the data, looking at supply and demand, looking at what you're paying in rent, looking at inflation.
Right.
Owning real estate is the best tax shelter that you're going to get. I was talking to a client and I was telling her the other day, either have kids or buy real estate, one or the other, because those are the only tax shelters that we have right now, And obviously I'm being funny about
it's
it,
true.
but the reality is right now, I'm not a CPA, so don't count this as legal advice. But right now, you can write off the taxes on the property. You can write off the interest on a property, and that's going to put maybe 7 to 12 grand back in your pocket that you don't not have to give to Uncle Sam.
Right.
And I just think that alone, if you're making 70, 80, $100,000 a year, buy something
Right.
so that you can have this tax shelter so that you can build some equity. There was a statistic a while back that I just resaw again, and I don't remember off the top of my head who posted it, but they said, renters over the lifetime of their life that don't own real estate end up passing away with a net worth of like $25,000.
I think it's less. I think it's like 12 or 15.
Yeah,
Something like that.
I mean, I'm being generous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the same person that owns real estate passes away and leaves their family on average about $250,000
Yeah.
of net
Assets,
worth
yeah, or
that they're passing on to their family. So maybe not for yourself, do it for the future generations that you have coming down the pipe down the road.
while you can. I mean, if inflation and the way that the U.S. economy or wherever prices are going, it may be out of reach.
Yeah.
At some point for your children or your grandkids and things like that. So
Absolutely.
we always see probates, and a lot of times people pass, and the first thing that the kids want to do, or the heirs to the property, the first thing they want to do is sell it. And sometimes I'm like, man, like, why are you guys selling this? Like, you should keep it, and start to keep building your guys' real estate portfolio.
Absolutely.
So it does pain me to see it.
Yeah.
But there's going to be work for us to do.
Or tap into that equity,
Right.
and add to their portfolio,
Yeah.
and use that hard-earned equity that person built for you guys to add more to their financial freedom.
I also think that being able to talk to somebody like you or our team, because I don't think that the average realtor will be able to articulate it the way that you're doing. Most people are just going to say, "Hey guys, go talk to your lender."
Yeah, well, I mean, my years of experience and having a mortgage background and an escrow background definitely gives, our team and I a competitive edge to be able to offer good information. And that goes back to the whole IG stories that Fed lower the rate versus, hey, you got $16 a month, or you got $96 more a month of buying power. That equivalates to $16,000 more if you want to keep that payment the same.
Right.
Or if a half a point rate reduction is going to be 32,000, a 3/4 is going to be 48,000, and a whole point reduction is going to be $64,000 worth of buying power that you could go if you're comfortable with that payment.
Right.
If not, you're going to lower your monthly payment $384, and then add that on to the money that you got back from the tax shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're talking about some good savings.
Right.
But get in, own something. It's funny because I remember in 2021 it was date the rate.
Marry the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was poking fun at that, but now it's kind of true. Date these rates, marry that house, get in and own something more than ever. So
yeah, I mean, people that got in at 7, if we start creeping down to 5s, they're probably laughing right now.
Yeah.
As soon as we creep down to maybe mid 5s, I could see a lot of people refinancing out of their 7-point interest rates into these 5s easy.
Yeah. And remember that stat that came out that said, what was it, 33% or 39% of homeowners that bought during the pandemic? Or was it even higher?
Yeah, I think it's over 50 or 60% of the people that bought during the pandemic were unhappy with their homes. So they might be the ones that are saying, "Hey guys, honey, it's time for us to put this on the market. Let's get the home that we actually want."
Yeah, because they didn't like their kitchen, they didn't like their backyard, they settled.
Yeah.
And at least right now, you don't have to settle. You can buy the house that you want. Rates are at 6. And Matt, I know for at least 7 or 8 years, I would, I'm always going to these real estate conventions with all the top analysts. And they would always say, prior to the pandemic, that based upon the price of milk and normal inflation, that interest rates should be at around 7%. and that we had been artificially keeping them low to keep the economy going. Well, now the rates are at 7%, 6%, which is in line with the growth that we were having prior to the pandemic. So 6 is a great rate.
Right.
5.5 is going to be a great rate. 5%, 4.9. I mean, these are the new 3.2s in my opinion.
Right.
That I think is going to be out there. So, yeah, I think that's kind of what we need to share with the consumer today is really you guys understand that the half a point drop in the Fed rate doesn't really transfer over to the mortgage rates dropping that much. And if they do drop, it's about a $16 a month for every quarter point that they drop for
Right.
every 100,000 you borrow. So you guys can go back and do the math. And if you're having trouble doing the math, you can reach out to our team and I,
Yep.
and we would love to make sure that we help you to kind of get the information that you really need to know.
Love it.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's great. I love being able to break it down, and I'm going to take it to the conversations that I have moving forward with people.
Yeah.
Like, guys, we're talking about $16 for every quarter point.
Yeah.
Why are you waiting?
Yep.
Like, what's the purpose? What are you hoping for?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess just to recap a little bit, supply and demand I think is the real driver for our real estate market. We've seen interest rates. You can talk about unemployment. You can talk about all that stuff, and you see it still locally here in LA. That's going to be the driver. I think as a consumer, you need to kind of dive down and say, what are you looking for? What's most important? I really don't think it's a lower rate. I think it's a lower payment.
Mm-hmm.
And then by not getting that payment, are you missing out on the tax shelter?
Right.
I think that's something that you really need to go. And also in the equity build, we have a lot of conversations with first-time home buyers, and it's that stepping stones approach that we take to helping clients get into real estate.
Right.
Hey, start with this house, build some equity, move to that house, get to the next house, and keep going. And then 5-10 years from now you're really in the home that you want to be, right?
Right.
And then, ask yourself, can you afford to make this payment right now?
Yep.
Ask yourself, if you lost this job, can you afford to make the payment until you got that new job? Right?
And if the answer is yes, you should be buying real
You
estate.
should be buying real estate. So I think that wraps it up for us today, yeah?
Love it.
Kind of a fast one, I feel.
Yeah, really quick.
Yeah.
But our main topic was just the rates, and I think you hit it on the head.
Okay,
but guys,
good.
if you have any more questions on what it would look like for your specific purchase, give us a call, reach out to us. We'll put all of our information down below. If you want to know a little bit more about how the tax shelter will actually work and how it benefits, and any questions like that, feel free, reach out to us. We'd love to book a Zoom. We normally do them on Saturdays. But other than that, if you got any final words?
Yeah, push that like button, subscribe down below, and make sure you reach out to us for all your real estate needs, guys.
See you on the next one.
All right, bye.